This is your main man RJ from the Ringside Rant, heard only on the Visionaries Wrestling Network. So go over and subscribe across all your major platforms, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher to hear every great interview I have every Monday on the Visionaries Wrestling Network. Go over and follow the show's page on Twitter @_Ringside Rant. Follow the network's page @BizWrestleNet. And, as always, embrace the vision.
If you like podcasts and you are listening on Backbreaker Media, then you should listen to me, Chris Parrish,
and myself, Manoia,
and the Sounds of Struggle, because we are literally the most entertaining duo you'll ever come across in Western Canadian wrestling, baby.
We talk about things like wrestling
and other sports we like.
Wrestling.
But we won't talk about other sports that we don't like, because it's not that kind of podcast.
Like wrestling.
I mean, we like hockey.
And wrestling.
And we like football.
And wrestling.
And we also like to drink beer.
While wrestling.
Well, not while wrestling, but while watching wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to get into a conversation with Maniac and Chris Parrish, then you need to tune into the Sounds of Struggle live on Backbreaker Media.
Every Thursday.
Is when we hope to drop, but sometimes Mike Malawany doesn't do his job right.
Or we're too drunk to forget.
Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah.
He can bleep out the swear word, because we weren't supposed to do that.
Oh,
but
I'll try not to swear. I can't do it.
Yeah. Let's face it, the two of us, we're real.
And spectacular.
And we're a little bit of all right.
Yeah.
Well, so Strugglicious.
That we are.
That was kind of the key. Supposed to be Strugglicious.
Oh, sorry, I'm drunk.
Yeah. So, if you don't want to listen to us, then no. You're stupid, because we're entertaining. And if you want to listen to us, then, come listen to us on Backbreaker Media.
Yeah. What he said.
Later, bitches.
Hey, fans. Welcome back to another From the Second Row production. Now, folks, you've stuck with us through the years. We have looked at PWA wrestling. We've looked at a lot of wrestling across Alberta. We've talked to big-name wrestlers. We've even started some lifestyle podcasts, including geek culture and some even deeper offerings looking into the psyche behind why we do things from a personal view. Well, we're back, and we took a little bit of a hiatus there. And now we're proud to say, and I know I mentioned this on my Facebook page, that from the second row, that something exciting was changing. That the month of October, there was something new and exciting coming. Well, it's here. We have partnered up with Backbreaker Media, and you can find them if you're a From Second Row fan and you're wanting to get even more into some of the wrestling and more into some other looks of things. Look at Backbreaker Media on Facebook. You're going to find some stuff there, including some other great shows hosted by some really interesting guys who've enjoyed wrestling, and it's a really cool perspective of all kinds of things. And we're going to continue on our record of trying every Saturday to release a new episode of From the Second Row Productions. Like I said, this month we're going to be doing our bread and butter, our flagship show, PWA Radio, which we've done for many years. We've covered the Prairie Wrestling Alliance for a very long time. We're going to do our usual bit there. We're going to talk about some other wrestling that'll be coming up in other episodes. We'll also be doing a total geek podcast. There won't be any wrestling in that, but we'll be talking everything geek culture that we're looking at. We're talking like television, movies, comic books, anime even. We're going to get into all that stuff. And we'll even try and get into some of our serious podcasts where we took a look at mixing pop culture and the effects on our childhood and how we relate to those things as adults. Those are all upcoming in episodes. But this week, we're going to start off with PWA Radio. Now, I'm going to explain. PWA Radio usually is a show where me and my co-host, What About Ivan, we get together and we talk. First of all, we look over the card that's coming because we're there at the event, and we've been handed Usually we've been handed a sheet with the events coming up on it. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes we have to look at what was advertised, and let's face it, the card is subject to change, so it may not be exactly what we thought it was going to be, but we do our best. We try and look at and talk a bit about what the actions and the feuds are about. We try and make our little predictions of who we think will come out on top, how things will go. Then we try and find an interview or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever we can, and we try and splice them in somewhere within the show. And then we usually wrap it up with the two of us looking over the action that has happened and trying to get a little more perspective and give you folks at least an idea of how not Fall Fever in particular, but wrestling match that you've seen here has gone. This month, the format's a little bit different, only in the fact is, as we were doing that first, the pre-game show, near the end of our audio, just as Ivan was about to get into the main event, we had some serious technical difficulties backstage that affected the whole venue, and we had to stop our recording, and we did not get a chance to pick it up again. So much so that Ivan had so many things that he had to do backstage with the PWA crew that we didn't even get a chance to sit down and do our post-game. But what you're going to hear today is you're going to hear the pre-game with me and Ivan doing our predictions and talking about feuds. You're going to get a bit of a post thing with me just talking about what I saw and trying to get get a bit of a look at what you missed at Fall Fever if you weren't there. And then somewhere in there, and that's all up to our editor, we have a 7.5-minute interview with the PWA champion, Sheik Akbar Shabaz. Now, folks, I'm really happy and excited with this interview because for the longest time, getting Sheik Akbar Shabaz to talk anything of substance has not been a thing. He has been very rude and dismissive of pretty much everyone. He talks in hyperbole. He talks in cliches. He doesn't want to deal with people. He just wants to insult and have his way. Well, things are changing very much for the PWA champion. He finds himself on the out. He finds himself a lone man with a belt and everyone gunning for him. However, we always suspected that there might be a little bit more to the Sheik than a ball of insults. This guy has a heart, and this guy has pride, and real pride, not just the fake pride he was trying to throw around. He is legitimately hurt and perturbed by what the Western Lions have done to him, and he is standing up for the first time in a long time on his own, and he is focused. We're not going to see the hijinks and the silliness, I think, for a while from Sheik Akbar Shabaz. I think what we're going to see is him taking a legitimate, heartfelt run at the Western Lions. And now the Western Lions have dominated Western Canadian wrestling for a while. They are BVD is probably one of the strongest, craziest men I've ever seen. He is tough as nails. And then Michael Richard Blaze, probably the most talented wrestler that Western Canada has seen in a long time. Why this guy is not in the WWE, who knows? Maybe maybe they can't afford him. That's how good he is. But now, the two of them have taken their old friend, and let's face it, they worked with Sheik Akbar Shabaz for quite a while. He was part of their group. And now that Shabaz won the belt, they've made him number one target. And folks, it is an ugly scene. And it is something to hear the emotion in Sheik's word. I want you, any of you folks who want to get some feedback, if you feel that Sheik Akbar Shabaz is deserved what is happening to him, or if you feel sympathetic to what he's going through, or anything that you think, please contact us on our Facebook page From the Second Row. By all means, send in your things. Send in stuff to Backbreaker Media. I'm sure they would like to know. They track all of the Western Canadian companies. PWA is part of the discussion all the time, and let us know. Is Sheik Akbar is he being real? Is this just another one of his underhanded ploys? Or, as I'm starting to think, that he is really touched here and he is really, really going to make a run for the guys who done him over. Well, folks, sit back and enjoy this episode of From the Second Row and PWA Radio in particular, and we'll see you next time on Backbreaker Media and From the Second Row. Fans, welcome to Fall Fever, PWA's Fall Fever. That was a woo from What About Ivan?
That's right.
Ivan, we're back together again. Have you missed me?
Oh, not really.
I didn't think so. Not called me once. I was in the hospital. Anyways, it's a legend T. James Logan. What about Ivan? We're at Fall Fever. Wow, we have a bunch of great matches up tonight and lots of weird things that we probably should catch people up with who are just getting into the PWA.
Well, yeah, and I mean, because PWA has been around for years, and so you really need to stay up to date with that. That's why we have our social media, of course, but that's also why we have people like you who talk about us.
Well, you know what? First of all, let's throw out the social media for PWA.
At PWA Wrestling CA, that's it on Twitter, Instagram, and we have the group on Facebook as well. And the website just got updated as well, pwawrestling.ca.
And if you have questions or you're an attractive girl who wants to send naked pictures, where can they go for What About Ivan?
Oh, at What About Ivan on everything.
Not a hesitation. Anyways, folks, you can also find us on FromTheSecondRow.ca. You can find us on Facebook from Second Row, and we're new to the Backbreaker Network. Saturday nights, our show will be appearing. Anyways, this issue of PWA Radio is Fall Fever. We're going to talk about some matches. We're going to talk about some brawls. There's lots to talk about. But let's look at one of the matches. I'm sitting here. Yep. The card that was handed out earlier. I see we have Kenneth Anthony and Reed Matthews. Now, this is a very interesting match because what we're seeing here is finally the leader of the Millennial Rebels facing the guy they ousted not too long ago. The ever increasing. We talked about this, didn't we? The thickness was getting pretty popular. I was wondering how long the other guys were going to be like, this guy's just a little more shinier than us, and when old jealousy was going to strike.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. And I mean, they really came after him. There was a lot of people who thought we might have seen the last of Reed Matthews, actually, from how hard they came at him. But then he came back. It was a surprise return, and he's been picking off the Millennial Rebels. And tonight, like you said, the leader, the Fury, Kenneth Anthony, has to face off against the thickness, Reed Matthews.
Well, you know what? We've seen Reed Matthews as that kind of happy-go-lucky. Sure, he was the bad guy, but he was kind of the fun guy in the group. You didn't really see him take it to guys super hard, but, they beat him, but I think they might have beat something into him. When you kick a dog too much, it gets up and bites your butt.
Yeah, I think he got a little angry at that, and it's going to come out tonight, I think. He's been putting on tremendous shows, been showing how tough he is, and just how willing he is to go that extra mile. I mean, we've seen him roll into the ring with chairs in tow because he knows it's a numbers game with the Rebels, and if it's going to be a numbers game, his partner is going to be that steel chair.
Well, speaking of numbers game, what kind of prediction are you going to go here? Because the more I look at this, I got to think the Rebels are going to – I don't see a clean win coming here because there's just too many Rebels still walking around.
You know what? That's very true, but Reed is like a man possessed. He's so focused. He's got that laser vision right now on each of the members of the Millennial Rebels. I'm giving this one to the thickness. I think he's going to take out his aggression on the Fury, and he's coming out of here the winner.
Well, you know what? That is a bold prediction. The thickness is going to get himself in a lot of mess here. I feel for the guy. He was treated badly by the rest of the Millennial Rebels. I just, however, feel that there's too many Rebels still hobbling about. There's got to be a way, some way he can maybe isolate him someday down the road, but I think today he may get a victory in heart, but I don't think it's going to be a victory by pin.
Interesting. But moving along, we do have the League facing off against the above-average Joes.
Now, before we get going, I don't understand what exactly is the League.
Well, the League, essentially, they're a group who just decided that, people need to pay their dues in this business. They need to understand where they are and that everyone, just that people are not contributing. And they go around and they request league fees.
That's very interesting. So they're sort of loan shark collectors without a debt.
Something like that, yeah. They're looking for their slice of the pie, even though they maybe don't deserve it.
They're interesting. They're two roughhousing guys, and I've seen them. They're a bit intimidating. I tried to talk to them once. They asked me for a league payment. There's no way I'm paying anything.
No, exactly.
This is indie wrestling. It's not like we get paid a lot to do anything, so I'm not giving away some of my pay for anything. But tonight, they face I'm never sure how to take these guys, the above-average Joes. I mean, are they comedy? Because sometimes they get in there and they wrestle some great stuff. Sometimes they're goofy as crap, but they're slowly winning the fans for something that some people might think is sophomoric and idiotic, yet it's kind of fun. It really is.
And that's kind of, I think, when you get to the basis of who they are extremely talented individuals. Kenny Stryker and Aiden Adams, phenomenal guys. But when they've teamed up, they brought their talent and I think just a bit of the fun that, maybe sometimes was missing from some of the tag team matches.
Now, going into this match, it's interesting. Now, I don't know enough about the league, and I am going to go with the Above Average Joes because I think they've got some kind of fan momentum behind them.
I think that's true. I'm a big fan of both of those guys, and I think together they're starting to gel well, and I agree with you on this one. I think the Above Average Joes are going to take it.
Now, next, you ever meet those guys who maybe they're better looking than some people, maybe they're a little more popular, maybe they got a little more muscle than people, and it goes to their head. And when I think of people like that, I think of Michael, Allen, Richard Clark, a guy with more names and even more muscle on him. And instead of being that humble guy thanking everything he does, he likes to rub it in people's faces how muscular and built he is. But he's going up against a veteran who, my goodness, this is the guy who deservedly gets to wear a Superman shirt. Chris Steele.
Oh, exactly. Chris, the real man of steel, PWA Hall of Famer, tag team champions. He's been around for years. He's seen it all, done it all, and just not only experience-wise, but this guy is a powerhouse. So much muscle behind him. Nothing against Michael Allen, Richard Clark. He's a good wrestler. I'd say good. Yeah, that's
above average.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, I don't get trademarked there.
Yeah, maybe. But, I'm giving this one 100% to Chris, the real man of steel.
Well, you know what? Michael Allen Richard Clark has taken something, his arrogance, and he's made it really personal the last little while. I've seen him and Bobby Sharp making fun of Team Hall of Fame, giving them gifts as their old men, geriatric gifts, muscle thing. Like, it's gotten kind of ridiculous how much they're mocking the age of guys who aren't that incredibly older than them. I mean, yes, they're a veteran team, but it's not like they're 60-year-old men, dying in the ring here. They still got a lot, and there's a reason they're called Team Hall of Fame, because they can run with the best. I think Michael Allen Richard Clark has shot his mouth off a little too much, and I think tonight he's going to get a spanking from Chris Steele.
A spanking?
It's going to be an all-and-out spanking and pin.
Interesting. Well, I look forward to that one, but again, I think we're agreeing on this one. Chris Steele with the win.
Here's a really interesting situation. The team of Bobby Sharp and Kat Von Hees. I find it interesting because as I've been looking around, they're not exactly getting along in other places in the country. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of tension they have going on in another company just one province over, and there's been kind of an uneasiness, I think, watching them team together. However, some people may say it's a good thing that they drew this team because this is a very, very new team of very young graduates from Storm Academy. How do you say these names?
Zoe Sager and Barry Grayson. Both of them just recently joined the PWA only a few months ago. Great kids. They got great heart behind them. But with Bobby Sharp and Kat Von Hees, I mean, those two, I know you talk about them not getting along, but let's face it, they've been doing this for a number of years.
You don't have to get along when you're that in sync.
They're really well respected, and I mean this is a mixed tag match rule, which means that when there's the tag, both partners have to swap in and out. So I think for this one, I'm going to give it to Bobby Sharp and Kat Von Hees.
Definitely. I mean, all feelings and weirdness aside, they are the veterans here. They're up against two relatively young people. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lesson learned by two newbies, that's for sure.
And that's what I would say to them right now. And I'd be like, you know what? Go into this match and try and learn as much as you can. Don't go in there expecting to get a win, because it's probably not going to happen, kids. Sorry.
Roll and tuck. Now, you know what? A guy who, when I found out he was becoming a wrestler originally, I was kind of like, really? Because he was a referee for a while. And he was probably the most disinterested and bored referee I'd ever seen in the PWA history. And he even told me, yeah, I hated that gig. But he took his training. And Mo Jabari is becoming actually a pretty exciting wrestler. I enjoy seeing him. And I like backing him because he's a guy who really takes it out there for the fans. But the guy he's going up against tonight, Colton.
Another one of those millennial rebels we've talked about. And with the millennial rebels, you always have to worry about that numbers game.
Well, you know what? We always see Kenneth Anthony. He always acts like he's arrogant, but there's like kind of disdain and arrogance in Colton Kelly that I just don't think has been matched by anybody, including Kenneth Anthony. I think he's going to try and ground the high-flying Mo Jabari. He definitely has a weight advantage. Yep. He has a power advantage, and we know he can fly. I've seen him over the years. He can do stuff, but Jabari's got the speed, and that might be the factor here. But I'm going to have to go with Colton Kelly. I don't want to go with Colton Kelly. I know what kind of stuff he's going to pull out there, and I know Mo Jabari really deserves a lot, but this is a tough one tonight.
It's an interesting take you got there, but I'm going with the fastness of Mo Jabari. You know, Kid Chocolate, when he's out there, he just moves so fast, and I think that going against Colton Kelly, he's going to come across someone who, you know, he's been around a bit longer, but Mo, you know what, he's got that heart, he's got that speed. I'm giving it to him.
All right, looking down the card, who else do we see here?
We got the Millennial Mountain, the Titan, facing off against Bryce the Slammer Sova.
Well, here is power and power. You know what?
The only difference there is the height.
Exactly, and I was going to say, the Titan is a very large man, but come on, Slammer has shown us over the years this guy can topple mountains.
Exactly. This is going to be a hard-hitting matchup, folks. If you want to see big guys going at it, this is the match for you. And now there will be an interesting thing. I'm gonna let you in on this.
Okay, I'm excited.
So, if the Titan wins, a member of the Millennial Rebels will get to face the Slammer at Fright Night for the Mayhem Championship.
Okay, you know what? Once again, this changes everything on its head. I had in my head a whole plan of what I was going to say.
Yep.
That's out the window because I was going to say, well, you know what? Slammer he's definitely the veteran. He's the more powerful of the two. He's been in so many more wars. But then with this kind of stuff on the line, you know those pesky Millennial Rebels are going to be there like a bunch of dogs on a three-legged cat. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be terrible. And I think Slammer is going to get slightly bamboozled here, and I think he's going to be defending his belt.
Oh, that's an interesting take there, but, I knew what was coming, and that's not going to change my prediction. I'm going with the Slammer on this one, because I've seen him pick up the big men before, and I think tonight he's going to do that, and he knows what he's getting into with these Rebels, so he's going to have his head on a swivel, looking all around, waiting for those surprise attacks. I think he's walking out of here, and no Rebel is getting a shot at Fright Night.
Well, you know what? We're coming down to our last two matches on the card. What do you think of this new Mexican guy, El Asinio? I was impressed with him. There's something in there, and he's going up against a guy who, well, he's always been solid, and there was a little bit of a time where I was on him a bit because it seemed like he was a lot tentative, but lately he's been opening up his game, and I'm getting a little more impressed with the Omen. He's constantly on the move. He's constantly improving himself, and tonight here's two guys. There's no feud going on here. These are two guys meeting up for the first time, but two very interesting different styles. I'm going to say I'm going to call the Omen just out of experience, but I think this Alicinio guy, he's trying to make a name for himself. He told me the last time he was here, he felt was his audition. I think he's looking at it as a constant audition, and I think he may try to pull something. You know what? No, scrap it. I'm giving it to this guy. He's hungry.
Interesting. Yeah, El Asesino, when he's been all over, but just recently came to the PWA, and you know what? because of his past experience, that's why he got some of the matches he did when he first showed up here. And, I mean, he was in a match recently with Michael Richard Blaze, which, let's face it, just to stand in the same ring with that man, you got to be on a certain level. And he did phenomenal in that one. But I'm going to go with the Omen on this one. I think just because the Omen, this is his home ring, and so I'm giving that hometown advantage to him.
Interesting. This is turning out to be quite a variety of thoughts we're having here, but the main event. Now, fans, I got to tell you, I was super excited when this one was announced.
Yeah.
The champion, Sheik Akbar Shabaz. Yeah. And I'm not sure the fans seem to be liking him a bit because of what his opponent and his opponent's partner did. We're talking about Michael Richard Blaze and his tag team partner, Brandon Van Danielson, last month attacked and viciously beat Sheik Akbar Shabaz. You know what? This is going to be a heck of a match tonight. Michael Richard Blaze, man. This guy, he is one of the most incredible wrestlers. We've seen him over the years do so much. Yeah. He holds your breath, but Sheik Akbar Shabaz finally ascending into that thing. You've seen it coming over the years. It's been building. He's finally at the top of the mountain. For some reason, the fans are starting to like him a bit. And you know what? There's something awakened him. I noticed that last match, he had a chance to really hurt his opponent, and he backed off. It cost him in the mind of the Western Lions. Yeah. But you know what? It may have gained him some fans.
Oh, I think that's 100% true. You know, it's that thing that Sheik, he could get the fans to do what he wanted. Let's face it. He was tremendous at that. But now he's going to have to use that to get them to cheer him because he's facing off against Michael Richard Blaze. And now I'm not sure if you caught that promo that was recently.
I was going to bring that up, yes.
Yeah, what happened there?
I don't know. You know, I saw this come up on Backbreaker Media. I didn't get I didn't put it in. It was Michael Richard Blaze, but he was very cryptic in some ways, but very direct. I'm not sure because, you know, he can just easily say, well, I didn't really mean that and that. But what it comes across to us as fans is tonight, fans, he is winning that belt, and if he doesn't, he's leaving.
Now,
and I don't know.
Do you think that's because maybe he feels like it's going to be an easy victory that he said that? Or do you think he had to put that out there to amp himself up?
Well, let's keep in mind the Western Lions are a unit. Brandon Van Danielson could be anywhere at any time. He's not on tonight's card. For all I know, he's laying under the ring right now, a la Tommy Rich for the last couple hours, waiting to jump out and help.
That's true.
You got to remember that not only is Michael Richard Blaze on the top of his game, he's on the top of a nasty wave of meanness that I have not seen for a while. We've seen him constantly ambushing, jumping people before the matches have even started. Brandon Van Danielson, the same thing.
Hey folks, it's Senior Engineer Mike Maloney here at Backbreaker Media. Right at that moment, you could hear that Ivan was being called in the background, so things got a little chaotic in the backstage area, so they didn't get to wrap up the initial part of the podcast. At this time, we're going to take a quick commercial break, hear from Spencer Love from Win Column Sports, one of the sponsors of Backbreaker Media, and then we're going to get into an interview that T. James Logan had right after the show with Sheik Akbar Shabaz, the PWA champion. I'm actually very shocked at some of the statements made by the PWA champion in this interview. And then following that, we're going to have a wrap-up of the show with T. James Logan, just giving his general thoughts on the show. But we'll be right back here with From the Second Row, PWA Radio Fall Fever 2018, here on Backbreaker Media.
Hello, friends. This is Spencer Love, your host of Over the Top Rope on the Win Column Sports Network. Don't forget you can head to wincolumnsports.ca for all of your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of wrestling, be it your major promotions or from the great province of Alberta, Canada.
Fans, we're backstage here. Fall Fever has finished. I have a chance to talk to the PWA champion, Sheik Akbar Shabaz. Sheik, a very emotional match tonight, and just a lot of things seem to be changing in the world of Sheik Akbar Shabaz since you've won that belt.
You know what? Since I've won the belt, you see people's true colors. A man who called me his brother, a man who came to me for help time and time again. As soon as he lost everything, all he saw was green, and the envy seeps out of him like poison. And we all know who I'm talking about.
You're, of course, talking about Michael Richard Blaze, and probably Brandon Van Danissen could probably be lumped into that category too.
You know what? Both of them, they both were the champion, and they lost it. Michael Blaze lost it to Jay Lethal. I did the right thing. I kept the PWA championship where it belongs, in Edmonton, Alberta, in the PWA, not around wherever he lives, Jay Lethal. I made sure it stays. I made sure they weren't an embarrassment to this company, and look what I get for it.
Well, one thing that's really important to note, that all the time that you had the briefcase, there were many times you could have cashed in and took a disadvantage over BVD or MRB, and you didn't. And yet, they came after you the first chance they got when you were the champ.
You know what? They say a beaten down dog may fear you, but the second you turn your back, it will strike like a coward. That's what Michael Blaze and BVD are. I showed them I have all the power. Yeah, I chose to be their friend. I chose to be loyal, because that's what a man does. He helps his friends no matter what gains he loses out on or misses. I stay true to them, but they can only stay true to the greed that's in their heart.
Now, right now, you find yourself in a rather unique position. You're still the champion. You're being forced to tag with somebody who just as of last month was one of the first contenders to come after your belt. But right now, the world of Sheik, Akbar, Shabaz is a little bit lonely. You have the fans, but it doesn't seem there really wasn't anyone else to come out and help you when everything went to pot tonight.
You know what? I dropped 2 losers. Now I make all the dough. I don't need anybody. The fans, yeah, they may be behind me. Gabriel, yeah, he come and saved me. But trust me, he doesn't like me any more than I like him. The only difference is we both hate the Western Lions more than each other.
And is that why you refused to shake his hand at the end?
You know, he's a good guy. He fights for what's right, but I'm uncertain of his motives. I have the championship. It's what he's been fighting for how long now? I have what he wants. He may save me, but right now I don't know who I can trust. So I'll buy my time, and I'll see what I can do and who I can trust.
Well, you know what? You bring up a really good point. Who do you trust? You put your faith in guys who for a while seemed like they had your back. They alienated you from everyone else. Now they've turned on you, and it's going to be hard finding anybody to really get back in with you. Are you a little bit worried if this war continues on with the Western Lions? Are you worried that maybe you're not going to have any allies because you are one man and you're a champion with a lot of championship responsibilities? Having 2 rogues coming at you constantly might be a bit of a dangerous position.
You know what? I've always been a fighting man. Now I'm a fighting champion. I don't need anybody. I don't need anybody to watch my back because I'm a one-man army. They can come, they can try, but they'll never succeed. And I will die and give my life if I have to keep that belt away from them.
Well, you know what, people? A lot of people who are wondering, there are people that are cheering you, but there are some people who are wondering, is Shabaz real? I do want to point out that your last match with Gabriel, you had a chance to take a total disadvantage of a situation. You did the honorable thing to show that you wanted to set the precedent as an honorable champion. Are you going to be an honorable champion going through, or is it win at any cost like the Western Lions?
It's always been win at every cost, but with Gabriel it was different. I didn't need to hit him with the belt. I knew I could beat him on my own, and I did. I could have blasted him and went to my old ways, but I chose not to. I chose to not rob the fans of a good match. I chose to keep everything down the middle to show them I have what it takes. Everybody who says, Shiki, you only win because you cheat, or this or that man helps you. Well, I showed everybody against one of the top men in this company that I don't need anything, don't need no belts, no tricks, no hook, no crook, no magic powers, no Harry Potter wand, whatever you got. I did it on my own.
You know what, the second last question I'm going to ask you tonight, this one's going to be a bit of a personal one, and I don't want to upset you here, but at the end of the match with Michael Richard Blaze, he said some things that really set you off. It caused you to be disqualified, and it wasn't the point of you trying to get disqualified. You were generally shocked when you got disqualified. But what affected you when he said that you were just the bitch that they used? Why did that bother you so much? And what happened there at that last moment?
Let me ask you a question first.
Sure.
I remember years ago who came to me for help. saying all he was doing was losing. He said God's gift needed the wrestling devil to help him.
I do remember that.
To rebuild him into a man, and I did it. And I helped him, and then he turned his back on me. And then he came to me again, because you know what? Yeah, I feel sorry for Michael Blaze. But now, a man with a big ego is a dead man walking. And if he wants to keep acting like he's the big shot, well, it's time for me to show him where his true place is. So he wants to call me the bitch, that's fine. He can call me whatever he wants. But when push comes to shove, and his plan comes, he's got a plan when he comes to the ring, but everything changes when the Sheik gets his hands on him.
And the last question I'm going to ask you tonight, when and if all this stuff with the Western Lions ends, what's the future holding for the PWA champion, Sheik Akbar Shabaz?
When this feud between the Western Lions and the Sheik ends, the only thing I'm going to ask them is if they could deal with the consequences and the results of their actions. For the PWA, I'm a fighting champion. I take on everybody. I may not always be an honest man, but I'm fair. So whatever comes my way, I'll take it, and I'll conquer it. It's like everything I've ever done in life. So I don't care who Kurt Sorokin tells me they're going to bring somebody in. Well, that's fine. Bring in whoever you want, because I'll fight them. If I win, which I usually do, then I win. If I lose, then I'll come back and I'll hit them even harder.
Well, there you have it, folks. Those are words from PWA champion Sheik Akbar Shabaz. He may not have always been the friendliest. He may not have always skirted the rules. But you know what? He always kept his word. And he's shown himself more to be a man of honor than a lot of us thought he could be. So we want to thank you, Sheik, and we wish you the best on all your upcoming things.
Let me ask you one other thing.
Sure.
All the people. I had a manager. Cool Moldy. Where is he now? Gone. Where is John Lynx? Gone. Where is Ayatollah? Gone. You know what happens when you turn your back on me?
What?
You disappear.
Folks, this does not look good for the Western Lions. Hey fans, it's your intrepid host, the legend T. James Logan. The end of Fall Fever turned out to be a lot of crazy happenings going on, not only out in the card itself, out in front of the audience, but also backstage. So much so, I did not get a chance to sit down with What About Ivan and go over to the post reactions to the matches we saw. So instead, I'm going to take a few minutes here to try and reminisce and to tell you people, I'm not going to go over matches exactly, but I'm going to try and give you an update on some of the things that happened and how they affect what's going on in PWA and going forward. My first look has to be at the Millennial Rebels. The very dastardly team made up of Kenneth Anthony, Colton Kelly, this giant bodyguard / I'm not sure what freak show that they have, this giant Titan fella, and of course Takeshi, the most annoying and devious little manager I've seen forever. Well, the Millennial Rebels, they started off the night with good. Colton Kelly went out and had a great match with Mo Jabari. Things were looking really well. Titan comes out. He manages to score a win over the Mayhem champion, Bryce Sova. Now, Bryce Sova, who we know as the Slammer, did not put his belt up against Titan, but there was a stipulation that if Titan won this match, that there would be a title shot for for a Millennial Rebel against him at the Halloween show. Well, interestingly enough, after Titan scores the pin, just about every Rebel is demanding that he be the one, Kenneth Anthony more than most, demanding that he be the one who gets the title shot. Well, as things got heated and arguments started breaking out between all the Rebels, Bryce just said enough. Slammer got in there and said, you know what, I'll take on all three of you whiners if I have to. I'll take on every Rebel. It doesn't matter to me. So, once again, it looked like the Millennial Rebels were on to a tremendously great start, but then they hit the roadblock. Now, the Millennial Rebels used to have a member of their team called Reed Matthews, who was known as the Thickness. And he used to team with Colton Kelly, and they were the PWA Tag Team Champions for quite a while, for almost a year. Or maybe it was just over a year. But in any sense, they had been a solid team for a while. Well, me and Ivan had kind of noticed there was sort of this organic swell of support for the Thickness, but none for Colton Kelly or Kenneth Anthony. And I said to Ivan, we better keep an eye on this, because there might become a time where Thickness's popularity is going to hit home to the egos of Kenneth Anthony and Colton Kelly, and something might happen, and it sure did. It did. After losing the tag team belts, Colton Kelly attacked his partner and beat the Thickness so badly a couple months ago that we haven't seen the Thickness for a while. He was out of injury. Well, he came back recently, and he has been taking runs at the Rebels. Well, tonight, he did not get the Rebel he wanted. He got Kenneth Anthony, and he pinned him under 30 seconds. It was amazing. Kenneth Anthony, of course, Mr. Ego. If you ever met this guy, you know he thinks he's the greatest thing since anything. He demands, actually, a rematch. Well, Reed Matthews says, why should I give you a rematch? I just beat you in under 30 seconds. Kenneth Anthony's ego gets so big that not only he says to Reed Matthews, you give me another match. If you manage to beat me once again tonight, Colton Kelly will have to face you one-on-one at the Halloween show. Now, Colton Kelly was not too happy about this, but Kenneth Anthony thought he had everything under control. The Thickness took advantage and said yes, and then proceeded to have a great match with Kenneth Anthony, in which he won. So that's right. Reed Matthews the Thickness finally gets a shot one-on-one against Colton Kelly at the Halloween show. And, you know, they say one-on-one. There's always seems like the Rebels run in packs. But I'm just hoping that Reed Matthews finally gets a chance to show Colton Kelly how wrong he was to take a run at. One situation that's always interested me right now, too, is the tag team situation. We have the Team Hall of Fame. Chris Steele and Dirty Duke Durango. They've been champions now for a while, and they are an incredibly fluid, talented, in-the-know team. Well, here they got they have been bugged a lot by the team of Michael Allen, Richard Clark, and Bobby Sharp. Now, I got to tell you that this team just irks me so much. They spend so much time kissing their muscles, talking supplements, they're giving us workout tips, when they seem to be not paying enough attention to wrestling. And they wonder why they're not the champions. Well, they've mocked Team Hall of Fame. They've done lots of, they've sent gifts to humiliate them in front of people. They've said horrible things about their age. They've done everything they can to get under Team Hall of Fame's, under their skin. But, you know, they still have not had much or any success in title shots against Team Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame has gotten to the point where they don't want to give them shots anymore. They said, no. You know, we'll take on other teams, but these guys have had enough. Well, it ended up being a weird situation. Chris Steele was supposed to fight Michael Allen, Richard Clark, and Bobby Sharp and Kat Von Hees was supposed to take on those two new Storm kids, Zoe and Ben. It ended up that it became a 6-man intergender team. And part of the Chris Steele came out there. He kind of insinuated that this is the match that it should be. Well, Sharp and Clark were having none of it unless they got a title shot, a Team Hall of Fame, if they managed to win. Chris Steele said, all right. The match went on, and it looks like at the Halloween show that Michael Allen, Richard Clark, and Bobby Sharp are getting one more shot at Team Hall of Fame. And I'm just hoping Team Hall of Fame finally just puts these guys in their place, teach them a lesson, you know. And this got to be a last gasp effort for Michael Allen, Richard Clark, and for Bobby Sharp in the tag team division. There are some great teams hunting around in the bottom line. We've got the League, this up-and-coming young team who I've really got my eye on, and the Above Average Joes, another team of accomplished tag team guys who've come together to form a great tag team. So you know what? The muscle-bound gym rats, or whatever they want to call themselves, they had better make magic at the Halloween show, because if they don't beat Team Hall of Fame, I think there's a heck of a lot more teams lined up ready to take their place. Lastly, I think I'd like to talk about the whole heavyweight championship situation. Up until a while ago, the Western Lions, I keep calling them Rebels, the Western Lions, who the team made up of Michael Richard Blaze and Brandon Van Danielson, had laid claim somehow to the PWA title to the point that they were co-champions. They would take turns defending the belt in various cities and employ lots of nefarious double teaming to keep themselves on top. One person who was a part of that whole mix in the Western Lions side was Sheik Akbar Shabaz. Now, years ago, if you remember correctly, Michael Richard Blaze came to Sheik and asked the Sheik to bring out his darker side, to help him, coach him, to make him a better wrestler, because he'd been going through this tremendous long line of losses. So he teams up with Sheik Akbar Shabaz. Now, Shabaz, we all know, he's been a loudmouth, he's been a jerk, he's been rude, he acts so arrogant. So he fit in right well with the Western Lions. Well, their team went on for a while, up to the point to last year where Sheik Akbar Shabaz managed to capture the Money in the Bank contract gimmick, where he could cash it in any time he wanted for a shot at whoever the champions were. Our champion was. I mean, the Western Lions are the only people to be co-champions. But this was his chance to take it was a guaranteed title shot. And all through the last couple of months, Sheik may have toyed a bit with the idea like he might cash it in on the Western Lions, but he never did. He kept, even when there was a few opportunities over the last couple of months where he could have taken one of them out while they were exhausted and actually won the belt, but he didn't. He kept his loyalty. Not the same can be said for the Western Lions. Now, everything culminated recently at the last Big Nate show, where Michael Richard Blaze was putting the belt up against Jay Lethal. That's right, Jay Lethal, the current ROH World Champion, who at this time was not the World Champion, but I think he won the belt like a week or two later after the meeting with Michael Richard Blaze. He won the ROH title. So Michael Richard Blaze puts the belt up. He loses. Gone. It looks like the Western Lions team has been delegated to the bottom lines, you know. And as Lethal is celebrating, Akbar Shabaz runs in, cashes in his suitcase, and attacks Jay Lethal and wins the belt. Now, you would think maybe the Western Lions would be happy to see Akbar Shabaz win the title. I mean, he's brought the belt back into the whole group. But no. Ugly jealousy rears its head, and the Western Lions attack Sheik Iskandar Akbar and put him out. And they tried their best to hurt the champ. He wasn't as hurt as they obviously thought they could hurt him, but they tried. Now, Sheik Akbar Shabaz finds himself in a very interesting situation. He is now being attacked from all sides, and he is the champion. He's got a target on his back wherever he goes. But he's decided, why not stand up and be a man? And he's been putting his belt out there. He's been wrestling with a lot more crispness, a lot more humility, and he's becoming someone who the fans are starting to warm up to. Then we have the Western Lions, two of the most accomplished wrestlers within Western Canada for the longest time. Michael Richard Blaze is just simply incredible. He is God's gift to wrestling. Brandon Van Danielson, tough man who will knock the taste out of your mouth if he's so inclined to do so, you know. It's interesting to see that the Western Lions' ego has been so big that they couldn't handle Akbar Shabaz winning the title despite the fact he was in their camp. Now, I'm always amazed that these two guys have this loyalty to themselves, to each other, that they seem unbreakable. And it's too bad Akbar Shabaz wasn't part of that circle, but now he finds himself a moving target for the Western Lions. But in a twist of fate, Akbar Shabaz now finds himself in an interesting situation where he's always been the kind of arrogant, hyperbole talking guy who you couldn't take serious, but he would do some ruthless thing, like a lot of ruthless things, and you think he's dangerous, he's scary, he's kind of a jerk. But now he finds himself in the situation where he seems to want to prove himself to be a man to stand on his own. And he's taken it to the Western Lions. He's not backing down. And I think this feud is very exciting. I mean, he just won the belt, and now he finds himself feuding with guys who've held the belt for quite a while. Coming up at the next Halloween show, the Western Lions want so badly to end Sheik Akbar's reign, and for them to get a chance to also hurt the Omen, Gabriel Lestat, who came in and stopped MRB from really hurting Akbar, that now the Western Lions demanded that they get a match at the Halloween card against the Sheik and the Omen. So two guys who up till a month ago were even just at each other's throat are now finding that they have to team together to fight the evil they see in front of them. So folks, I really think the Halloween show is going to be off the hook. We're going to see some tremendous matches. We know one of the Millennial Rebels will get a chance at Slammer. We know Team Hall of Fame will be putting their belts up against, we'll just call them the muscle-headed gym rats of Bobby Sharp and Michael Allen, Richard Clark. But in the main event, we do know that the team of the Western Lions, longtime companions, will be taking their title shot, or no, there's no title, sorry. They'll be taking their match, taking it to Sheik, Akbar, Shabaz, and his surprising guest, the Omen, and trying to put them out. I think we're going to see an all-out war at on the Halloween card, and I know I'm going to be there. Well, folks, it's been great talking wrestling this week. Thank you for your support. Any questions, any input, send it all to From the Second Row on Facebook, or even Backbreaker Media. And it's not like I don't know the show. I just get wound up and sometimes can't pronounce giant words. But I've known Backbreaker Media for a long time. I've known Mike Malawani for a long time. He's given me an opportunity to be on his network here. And I just got to say, if there's anything that you think that any input you want to give to this show, things you'd like to hear, people you want me to interview in the PWA, by all means send them, and I will do my best to secure that. From the Second Row Productions, we'll see you next weekend. It probably won't be a wrestling podcast next weekend. We're going to be shooting for, hopefully, a geek podcast. And I've got some exciting news. I'm in the middle of talking with someone to do a New Japan-centric show every 4 weeks. And hopefully I can get Donnie back and we can start talking about the impact of pop culture in people's childhoods up until their middle ages. And that's an interesting show we do from the middle that talks about some really cool things. And hopefully I'll get a chance to do an episode with Donnie. And of course, next month, you'll hear another episode of PW Radio. So fans, check us out at From the Second Row at Facebook. Always keep on contact with Backbreaker Media on Facebook. And we look forward to talking to you guys next time.